Hey everyone and welcome back. We're diving into some fascinating excerpts today from Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, ready to unearth some seriously valuable insights.
Absolutely. Covey's work is a treasure trove of wisdom for anyone looking to amp up their effectiveness in both their personal and professional lives.
It's like he gives you the blueprint, right? It's not about those flashy quick fix solutions, but about those deep fundamental changes that actually last.
Precisely. And he kicks things off with a really thought-provoking concept, paradigms, how we see the world.
It's like that optical illusion, right? The one that can look like a young woman or an old woman.
Exactly. Covey uses that to show how our perception shapes our reality. How we see things determines how we interpret and react to them.
It reminds me of that saying, change your perspective, change your life.
It's so true. And Covey takes it a step further. He says that holding on to outdated paradigms can actually sabotage our effectiveness, hold us back from reaching our full potential.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You can force it, but it's never going to be a good fit.
Exactly. And this leads to his distinction between the character ethic and the personality ethic.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the difference?
So the personality ethic, it's all about those surface level techniques, the quick fixes for success. While the character ethic...
It's about getting to the core of who you are.
Yes. It's about integrity, honesty, fairness. Those timeless principles that form the foundation of a truly effective life.
It's not just about looking the part. It's about being the part. Living those values day in and day out.
Exactly. It's about the long game, not just the quick win. And that brings us to another crucial concept, the P+C balance.
What?
The PPC balance. It stands for production and production capability. Covey uses this analogy of the goose and the golden egg.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine the goose is your production capability. All your skills, your well-being, your relationships, everything that allows you to produce results. Right, those are the golden eggs.
I see. So we all want those golden eggs, those results.
Right. But here's the thing. If you focus all your energy on just getting those golden eggs, on just the outcomes, without taking care of the goose, well, you'll end up with a very unhealthy goose. And eventually, no more golden eggs.
So it's about sustainability, right?
Yeah.
It's like that saying, you can't work on an empty tank. You've got to take care of yourself, nurture those areas of your life that allow you to thrive.
Exactly. It's about investing in yourself, in those things that make those achievements possible in the first place. Covey even tells this story about trying to teach his young daughter to share. He was so focused on the outcome, her sharing her toy, that he ended up harming their relationship.
It's so easy to get caught up in those immediate results that we forget about the bigger picture.
It is. And that's why this PPC balance is so important. It's about finding that sweet spot between achieving your goals and taking care of yourself, nurturing the foundation that makes those achievements possible.
It's about playing the long game, not just the short game.
Exactly. And this concept, this balance, it's really the bedrock for all the other habits. It's foundational.
So it's all connected. Understanding these underlying principles, these paradigms, it sets the stage for everything else.
Precisely. And that's where things get even more interesting. Now we get to dive into those specific habits, those actionable steps.
Starting with what Covey calls the private victories.
Yes. It's about mastering yourself, building that inner strength and independence. It's all about you. That inner work.
Laying the groundwork.
Right.
So where do we begin this journey of self-mastery?
It all starts with taking responsibility, owning your choices. Covey calls this habit 1. Be proactive.
Be proactive. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that we have more control than we often give ourselves credit for.
Yes. And to really illustrate this, Covey shares Viktor Frankl's account of his experience in a Nazi concentration camp.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. What could someone possibly learn from such a horrific situation?
Frankl discovered that even when stripped of everything else, he still had one precious freedom. The freedom to choose his response to what was happening.
To find that kind of inner freedom in the midst of such suffering, it's incredible.
It is, and that's the essence of being proactive. It's not about pretending our circumstances don't exist. It's about recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond to them.
So it's not about what happens to us, but about how we choose to respond to what happens to us.
Exactly. It's about shifting from I have to I choose. But how do we actually do that? How do we put this into practice in our daily lives?
That's the billion-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to say be proactive, but how do we actually make it happen?
Well, Covey gives us a really helpful tool, the circles of concern and influence.
Okay, break those down for me.
So your circle of concern, that's like this big bubble of everything you care about, from global issues to personal problems.
Oh, I know that circle well. It can feel pretty overwhelming at times.
It can, but that's where the circle of influence comes in. This circle represents the things you can actually control. Your actions, your words, your attitude.
So instead of getting bogged down by all the things we can't control, we focus our energy on what we can actually influence.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a reactive mindset of if only to a proactive mindset of I will. It's about taking ownership.
It's empowering, right? It's about reclaiming our power and focusing on what we can actually do to create change.
Precisely. But being proactive is just the first step. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, challenges us to go even deeper.
Begin with the end in mind. It sounds a bit cryptic. What's that all about?
It's about connecting with your deepest values, defining what truly matters most to you. Covey has this powerful exercise where he asks you to imagine attending your own funeral.
Whoa, that's a bit intense. My own funeral.
I know, it sounds a little morbid, right? But it forces you to confront those big questions. How do you want to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
It's about getting real with yourself, about living a life that's truly aligned with your values.
Exactly. It's about defining your own personal definition of success, not just buying into someone else's version of it.
So it's not just about the big picture, like your whole life, right? It applies to our everyday goals and decisions as well.
Absolutely. Think of it like setting intentions. What do you want to create in your life? And are your actions aligned with those goals?
It's about being intentional with our time and energy, about making choices that move us closer to what we truly want.
Exactly. And that brings us to habit 3, put first things first.
This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
It is. It's about prioritizing what truly matters and having the discipline to follow through.
Easier said than done, right? Especially in today's world, there's always something vying for our attention. How do we prioritize when we're constantly bombarded with distractions and demands?
It's definitely a challenge. But Covey's time management matrix can be a game changer. He divides our tasks into 4 quadrants based on their urgency and importance.
Okay, let's break down those quadrants.
Quadrant 1 is for things that are both urgent and important, like deadlines, crises, pressing problems.
The things we feel like we have to deal with right now.
Exactly. Then there's quadrant 2, which is for tasks that are important but not urgent.
Okay, what kind of things fall into that quadrant?
Think long-term planning, relationship building, skill development, self-care.
The stuff that often gets pushed aside in the daily hustle.
Exactly. But Covey argues that quadrant 2 is where the magic really happens. These are the activities that prevent those quadrant 1 crises from happening in the first place.
So it's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Precisely. But it takes a conscious effort to carve out time for those quadrant 2 activities. We need to schedule them in, make them a priority.
It's about being the CEO of your own life, right? Making conscious choices about how you spend your time and energy.
Exactly. It takes courage to say no to the less important things, even when they feel urgent in the moment.
We're always saying no to something. It's just a matter of what we're choosing to prioritize.
Precisely. And that brings us to the end of the private victories, those habits that are all about mastering yourself.
It's about that inner work, right? Building that solid foundation from within.
Exactly. But we don't live in a vacuum. We're social creatures, interconnected with everyone around us.
And that's where the next 3 habits come in. The public victories.
Yes. These habits are all about building effective relationships through interdependence.
So we've laid the groundwork with the private victories. Now it's time to explore how these principles play out in our interactions with others.
Exactly. And it all starts with a paradigm shift to what Covey calls win-win.
Win-win. Okay, I've heard that term thrown around a lot. But what does it actually mean in the context of Covey's work?
It's not about compromise or just trying to be nice. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach interactions. It's about believing that there's a solution out there where everyone benefits, where we can create something better together than we could have alone.
So it's a collaboration about finding those win-win solutions where everyone walks away feeling good about the outcome.
Exactly. And it requires letting go of that scarcity mentality.
Scarcity mentality.
Scarcity mentality.
What's that?
It's that belief that there's only so much to go around. That if someone else gets a bigger slice of the pie, it means less for me.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's easy to get caught up in that kind of thinking, especially in a competitive world.
It is. But Covey challenges us to embrace an abundance mentality.
Abundance mentality. I like the sound of that.
It's the belief that there's enough for everyone, that one person's success doesn't diminish the success of others.
So how do we actually apply this win-win thinking? How do we make it more than just a nice idea?
Covey outlines these 5 key dimensions of a win-win agreement. First, you have to get clear about the desired results.
So it all starts with clarity. What are we actually trying to achieve here?
Right. And then you need to establish those clear guidelines and parameters.
The boundaries, the rules of the game, so to speak.
Exactly. And then there are resources.
Making sure everyone has what they need to be successful: time, tools, support.
Exactly. And then, of course, accountability. How are we going to track progress and measure success?
Making sure everyone's pulling their weight and staying on track.
Precisely. And finally, we need to define the consequences, both positive and negative.
So what happens if we achieve these results? What happens if we don't?
Right. It's about having both rewards and consequences in place to keep everyone motivated and accountable.
This win-win paradigm is powerful, but I imagine it takes some practice to really shift from that win-lose mentality to this more collaborative approach.
It does. It's a whole new way of thinking and interacting. But the rewards are enormous when it comes to building strong, effective relationships. And it leads us beautifully into the next habit, habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
I love this one. It's all about communication, isn't it? Really taking the time to understand another person's perspective before trying to make them understand yours.
Precisely. Covey says that most of us don't actually listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that. My mind is already formulating a response before the other person has even finished talking.
We all do it. But it prevents us from truly connecting with others. We're so busy filtering everything through our own lens that we miss what they're really trying to say.
So how do we break free from that? How do we become better listeners?
Covey calls it empathic listening. It's about putting aside your own agenda and really trying to see the world through the other person's eyes.
Empathic listening. It sounds simple enough, but I'm guessing there's an art to it.
There is. Covey breaks it down into 4 stages. The first stage is simply mimicking content, repeating back what the other person said to make sure you heard them correctly.
Okay, so that's just basic active listening.
Right. Then the second stage is rephrasing content, putting what they said into your own words to show that you're trying to grasp their meaning.
So it's about reflection, about demonstrating that you're really trying to understand their point of view.
Exactly. But we also need to address the emotional layer, right? That's where the third stage comes in, reflecting feeling.
So now we're getting to the heart of the matter.
Yes. It's about identifying and acknowledging the emotions beneath the words.
So if someone's telling you about a frustrating experience, it's not just about understanding the facts of what happened, but also tapping into that frustration they're feeling.
Exactly. And then the fourth stage combines the second and third stages, rephrasing content and reflecting feeling. It's about acknowledging both the words and the emotions being expressed.
It sounds like this empathic listening is about creating a space of deep understanding and connection. But does it actually make a difference in real-life interactions?
It can be transformative. Covey talks about this doctor who misdiagnoses a baby because he doesn't take the time to truly understand the situation from the parent's perspective.
Oh no, that's a powerful example of how important it is to really listen.
It is, and it happens all the time in all areas of life. Misunderstandings, conflicts, missed opportunities, all because we haven't truly listened to each other.
So seek first to understand. It's not just about being a good person. It's about being effective. It's about creating better outcomes in all areas of our lives.
Oh, precisely. And it leads beautifully into habit 6, synergize.
Synergize. This one sounds exciting. What's the magic of synergy?
Synergy is that amazing principle that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's about valuing differences, embracing diverse perspectives, and creating something truly innovative and extraordinary together.
It's like that saying, 2 heads are better than 1. But in this case, it's not just about having more ideas. It's about having different kinds of ideas, different perspectives that can challenge and build upon each other.
Exactly. Covey uses the example of a brainstorming session where people feel safe to share their wildest ideas, where there's mutual respect and a willingness to build on each other's thoughts. That's where the magic happens.
It's about creating that space of creative collaboration where anything feels possible.
Precisely. And it's not just about ideas either. Synergy applies to relationships as well.
Oh, I can see that. 2 people with different strengths and weaknesses coming together to create something even stronger and more resilient.
Exactly. It's about embracing those differences as opportunities for growth and innovation.
I love that. So we've got win-win, we've got seek first to understand, and now we have synergize. 3 powerful habits for creating more effective and fulfilling relationships.
Absolutely. And it all culminates in the final habit, habit 7, Sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the saw. It sounds intriguing, like a metaphor for self-improvement.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you are your greatest asset. Habit 7 is all about renewal, taking care of yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Well,
We can't be effective in any area of our lives if we're running on fumes.
Precisely. We need to take care of ourselves so we can take care of everything else. And it's not just about us either. Covey talks about scripting others, recognizing the impact we have on those around us.
So we can help sharpen each other's saws in a way.
Exactly. By believing in others, encouraging their growth, we contribute to their development.
It's about fostering an environment of growth and support, both for ourselves and for those around us.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to those core principles we've been talking about: being proactive, having a clear vision, prioritizing what matters, seeking to understand, embracing synergy, and continuously renewing ourselves. It all fits together.
It's like those habits are individual threads, but when woven together, they create this incredibly strong and beautiful tapestry of effectiveness.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about recognizing that these habits aren't isolated practices. They work together to create a more fulfilling and impactful life.
It's been a real pleasure to dive deep into Covey's wisdom today. A timeless reminder that real change, lasting change, comes from within.
It does. It's a journey, not a destination. As Covey reminds us, it's all about progress, not perfection. Always learning, growing, and becoming the best versions of ourselves.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the 7 habits. We hope you found this exploration insightful and are inspired to apply these timeless principles in your own life. Until next time, keep striving for that personal effectiveness that truly makes a difference.